Bitbucket, which is really advanced. So I guess they should be able to submit the proposal tomorrow. It's really, really fast. So we will come back to this one later. So, all right, so let's start slowly while there are still more people coming in. Last week, we stopped, I think, somewhere near this slide. So we talk about daily Scrum meeting. That if you actually see each other every day, before you start working every morning, usually they stand up for a very short time. I guess if you get everyone stand up, how long can you stand up early in the morning? I think 15 minutes max. So within 15 minutes, all the team members should go through what they did, what they're going to do, and obstacles on your way. So you really don't want to becomes a confession section and problem-solving section that, I just talk to you and try to listen to your problem and what you have done, what you have done from yesterday 9 a.m. till like midnight and so on. That time will just run out. We are talking about maximum, 10 or 15 minutes for the whole team so that you can go through what everyone did yesterday, what going to do today, and so on. So we roughly have an idea what the team is up to. And if you want to do problem solving, do it offline. And as we said last week, this is most importantly can give you some peer pressure to make sure the member are actually doing the work. So can get the members to make commitment to each other that what I'm going to do today or what I'm supposed that I did yesterday, but because of some obstacle, I couldn't do it. But I'm going to finish it off today. So it's more like a commitment to the team. And as I said before, if there's some constraint that you couldn't do it every day, you probably do it every 2 days, and hopefully at least twice a week or something. If you don't see each other really more than once a week, then try to do it through at least some video conferencing, Skype or something, so that you can still do it. Without having this, you start delaying your project. Trust me, usually the problem will start from a minor issue like that. Because we have so many constraints, we can't see each other, and then the delay will start from there. So as the famous statement from Fred saying that if you delay a project by a year, you usually start 1 day at a time. So don't let them happen. And don't try to compromise that by emails or any other means, because you can save your time. It won't work. So we mentioned last week as well that every 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, there will be normally a sprint review meeting. So usually you have a form of a quick demo of what you're up to for the sprint that you have done in the past 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And usually, we mentioned last time that this demo is not supposed to be an official demo. You need to make it really, really nice, well, and spend lots of time just for the demo. No. If you're just talking about the time that you spend to prepare the demo, it should be less than 2 hours for the whole team. Otherwise, every 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you need to spend half a day to prepare the demo. If you can't, you spend more than like 10 or 20% of your time, development time, just to do demo. That's a waste of time. So demo is supposed to give you a checkpoint to make sure everything is in progress. And if there's anything wrong, we can review together. And also give you a time to talk to the customer or the stakeholder and say that, look, based on what you have done in 2 weeks, what we said before may not be possible, may not be feasible. We can't make our promise. We can't deliver that. So the fact is that with this agile process, you let the customer, let your client know that you will not be able to deliver on schedule. Rather than in the last minute before you deliver, hey, look, guess what? I can't deliver. Then you stuff. So So try to, if you have any, try to rectify the situation, talk to him. Maybe, I definitely cannot deliver that, but maybe I can deliver this instead. So this is the idea of, how you can have the review meeting and get everyone on board and try to rectify the situation. We also have the spring retrospective meeting. So it's very similar to this demo review meeting, but the demo review meeting or the spring review usually is get the customer and the stakeholder involved. Once the customer left, shut the door, we do the closed door retro meeting, closed door within the team. So basically, in this meeting, usually follow the spring review meeting. So the customer may give you some comment, this is not good. And then you learn something out of that within every spring. So as I said, if you set the sprints every 2 weeks, then every 2 weeks, you learn something out of that. This is for the team itself, for the Scrum team. So the feedback meeting, usually, we think, I have some feedback that, something that we should stop doing it, like as I said last time, maybe something like, you don't want to really name someone, maybe saying that like, we should be punctual on the meeting. It's not very nice that like, well, when we said that we start at 5 past, everyone only show at 15 past. Why not you change the meeting starting from 15 past and see how it goes? At least it's more effective to utilize our time. So basically, you try to review not the technical level as a Scrum team, something that you find is not doing right in the past 2 weeks. You don't want to carry it forward for the next 10 weeks. So you want to raise it. And again, if you raise it as a team, you are not a bad person. You try to make the team more effective. That's part of the teamwork. So the team itself is a unit. If you want to work the whole team as one, not as 4, then the team itself needs to be self-healing, self-heal. So if I know that something is wrong to get the team going down the drain like a sparrow, then someone has to stand up and say that this is not right. Hopefully, you get the support from the Scrum Master. Yeah, this is not right. We should do it in the right way. Then you should stop doing what is wrong and continue also doing what is right. So continue means like what really went well. For example, I like that we have someone taking minutes in our meeting. I never thought of that. But someone had that idea in the past 2 weeks. It went really, really well. And I think we should keep doing this. So champion what is right. And then after a while, your team will just getting more and more effective running it. This is part of the spirit of the Agile. Means like the team as an atomic unit, it has the capability to rectify itself if there's any problem. It can self-improve as well. And then after a while, you will have a dream team. Your team will be getting more and more effective. This is part of the teamwork. Not just technical, not everything is about technical. The attitude, the attribute of every member, and how we do things together as one team are very important as well. And crazy ideas. So if someone has some suggestion, never tried in the past 2 weeks, not sure good or bad, but maybe you find that, you know what, I eavesdrop the other team. I find that is a good idea. So it's just sort of like copycat. And this good idea is good. Maybe we should practice in our team. So this new idea, we should try in a team. That's also make your team in terms of the operation and the team bonding more innovative, the new way to run the team. So this is all the spirit behind this Scrum process. And that's why young company or new company like Google, Atlassian, and so on, they want this process because it makes the whole company younger, more energetic, and more sort of like active rather than passive to the environment. All right, so you will, once you pick a topic or you pick a project, then you will start discussing like, what features we need to support by to provide by this product on a project. Of course, customer will have a requirement. So usually when you develop a product, customer want, again, I say that using the same example, a word processor. Customer would like to edit document, do this, and so there will be lots of requirements. But in many situations, unless you're doing a consulting project, you will only fulfill the requirement, not more, not less. If you're building product, even you have the requirement, even a product survey and so on, you have the requirement. We want to build a word processor. But usually, you will add more to it. The team will discuss, you know what, although we want to build a word processor, why not we do it like, for example, the Google Docs and everything, they all support in a collaborative way. So you will add more requirement into it yourself. Now, is it a bad thing? In a traditional way, we never do that. We only satisfy the customer requirement. But these days are different because things have become more interactive. You will talk to the customer. Normally not directly in practice. You will talk to your product owner, the guy who talked to the customer, and say that, guess what? We can add these new features. And multiple users can add to the same document in a collaborative manner into it. I mean, of course, you know that's not new, but let's say it's not in part of the requirement. Then the product owner will go to talk to the customer. Guess what? Although you don't require this, but we can do this as well. But to do this, we either cost a bit more or we have to take another 2 more months. So you get something from the customer or from whoever stakeholder by doing extra. And this extra, the idea also is from the team, not directly from the customer. So the team will also feel the ownership of the idea as well. So the morale is different. So that's all part of the discussion that even you have the requirement, even you have the product description, same as the project topic that you have from this subject. Even we have some requirement there, but the requirement is not fixed. So of course, you can't be like, I ask you to do a word processor. Guess what? I think it's a bad idea. I should give you a spreadsheet instead. So do a spreadsheet calculator, not a word processor. No, that's too far. But on the other hand, you can change a bit, you can do this and that. Although I ask you to do a word processor, but end up, no, this day no one uses word processor on desktop. I give you an app, a mobile app, there's a word processor. That's fine, you almost completely change it, but you still can talk to them and they like it, you do it. So nothing is fixed here. Now, normally, when you put the item into the product backlog, or you can describe the features of a product, you can describe the feature in 2 ways, depends on perspective. You can discuss from the user point of view or from the developer point of view. So from the user point of view, for example, if you say that let the user easily find how to use the software. That's from the user point of view. From the developer point of view, let's create an interactive help page. That's from the developer point of view. So you think of a feature that can satisfy the user requirement or the user request. That we are talking about the same thing. It's just a perspective. So from the user point of view, I don't care whether you give me an interactive help page or a video or just some hint or pop-up hint. It still address the issue. I just want to have some way that you can make it easier to use your software or have some guideline to guide me to use the software. But when you look at it from the developer point of view, you map it into some features. So when you look at the tasks that involve to deliver a product, you can do it, you can see it from a more like a story-based work, which is from the user point of view, or task-based work, which is from the developer point of view, what tasks you need to implement. Now, unfortunately, when you're doing more the agile approach, normally for the product backlog, we prefer something, guess what? More from a user point of view. Start from there. Why? Because the agile process is different from the traditional software engineering. We always get the user involved, the customer involved. If you say in a task base, I'm a customer, come in, I'm a banker, sit down. What is this exception handling? I have no idea. I want to know. So if you use it in the task base, very likely you're in your own jargon. And your product manager or whoever that's more front end should translate this into a story base. In fact, you should start thinking your product using story base. Think of an epic, a story, and so on. And then refine it into tasks. Otherwise, you may end up deliver a product that's full of geeky features, and the user will have no idea how to use them. So think from the story point of view, map it into the features. Even you think that this is a cool feature from developer point of view, try to think from the user perspective. What story you try to create? So then you end up build a more coherent product out of that. So that's why for your proposal that you're going to do, I don't give you like 3 weeks to work on a proposal. You merely have a week to work on a proposal. It's not long, except the dummy cover page. I just want minimum 4 pages. If you have 4 people, everyone need to write 1 page. And I don't even want you to go into too technical. I want from the user point of view what you want to support. So really high level thing you put down together. So it's more like I want to push you to start communicating with the other team members and put it into a piece of document. So usually the list is prioritized by the product owner and sometimes with the Scrum Master together. So prioritize means like once you have all the story, I want to support the search and replace. I want to support some interactive help page. I want to support like save a file, retrieve a file. After you have all the story, put it together. You have a list of story or list of features. Sit down together and talk to the stakeholder. Which features you want the most? You prioritize them. With the priority, then you can decide which sprint demo you're going to demonstrate first in the first 2 weeks and then the next 2 weeks. So rather than, you know what, I think for the work, it's just a bad example, but you say for the work processor, I bet the customer will not say that. The first one I want to see the feature is the help page. It wouldn't be. Probably the first feature I want to see is like an interface. I can actually edit something. So then you need to do that one first. And then maybe search and replace this later. And then finally is a help page, probably like that. So you have the priority from the customer saying what they want to see first. Then you need to map out with your team what you actually can do first. Because the customer would not know. The customer wouldn't know that unless you have done this, you can't build this on top. The customer will have no technical idea. So when you ask the customer, you don't care about this technical order. You ask what they want first. And then you have your own order to map it out and compromise to have a final order. That's how you do planning. Don't dream up the plan and the schedule. Get the input, as I said again, interactive. Talk to them. Talk to your tutor. Talk to whatever thing. Which one you want to see first? Okay? That's a safe play in the industry. Probably in this course too. Safe play. So you get a tutor, say that you want to see this first, right? And then 2 weeks later, you demonstrate to the tutor. They say, no. What? You said that. Then you accuse the tutor. That's the way you do it. Same for when you go to work, the customer. Get the customers agree on that. Like, it's your idea. Rather than you say that, no, it's my idea. Then 2 weeks later, you screw up, it's your idea. So always get the customer involved. In this case, get the stakeholder involved. Anything that you think it affects the order. So it's sort of this kind of stories all together. It forms the requirement of a system and will end up, after you get all the priority, it becomes a prioritized list in a backlog item. Usually it's managed by the product owner. In this case, your team don't have a product owner. You only have a Scrum Master and a team. So you can manage by the whole team, or you get a Scrum Master to manage it. So you can express in a spreadsheet. Typically in the industry is Jira. But if you have a small team, Jira usually is, Jira in some sense is a complicated version of Trello. But you will have, if you haven't used a bug tracking system before, or this kind of, or Jira before, the learning curve is slightly deeper. And Trello is a simpler version. So if you have a small team, a team of less than 5 or 6 or 7 people, you use Trello, you shouldn't have any difficulty. But normally, you go to industry, you usually have a larger team. 10 plus people, it's very hard to use Trello. You probably should use Jira. You have much more features. But in this course, since you only have 3 or 4 people, Trello is more than capable for that. So you can put down this priority list in Trello, and we can manage it from there. I will show you some example later. Yes? That's very good questions. Yeah, many students asked me before. Can we use GitHub to do all the tracking and so on? Short answer, no. Long answer, I don't see why. That's a long answer. But Bitbucket has no different than GitHub in a sense that they're just running Git.
Well, GitHub has projects, and it also parses your keywords and create messages from which you can close an issue, reference a pull request, and reference issue in the past.
Sure. Sure. Great. Want to add something?
And it also integrates well with different versions of your system as well, so you can tag things. I don't know how you
Okay. Any other support before I shoot you down? No, you may win. Any other better reason? Okay. Any cons, as in disadvantage of using Bitbucket? Yeah.
Well, in Bitbucket, you would have to use three software just to keep it together. In GitHub, it all comes in one package, right? For example, GitHub projects, GitHub issues, and GitHub itself, right? So you have three softwares in one package, which keeps it all in one place. So that's nicer than having three separate software, three separate software. And also, on top of that, employees, you should create your GitHub account for the contributions you've made. So contribution to Bitbucket wouldn't show up in GitHub.
All right. It's a very hard decision. So how hard it is for anyone using GitHub to using Bitbucket?
Well, it's not hard, it's just inconvenience. I think it's inconvenient.
Yes. What's the problem of Bitbucket? Well, there are many. Number one, they're not open source. I mean, they're running in a commercial cloud. And number two, they're proudly Australian owned. It's from Atlassian. So we should all support Australian owned company. And Atlassian is from UNSW. So we should all support any company from UNSW as well. And well, I mean, other than all this advertising, most importantly, when we start this subject, the whole subject of 3900 and 990 is we got the feedback from the industry. And the industry panel, part of it, is the boss of Atlassian. So the feedback is like, UNSW, actually, we produce very good developers, very good one. The only downside of our graduate is like, other than the hardcore side, the soft side is a bit lacking, which is like teamwork, talk to people. I guess we're all nerdy or something. We don't talk to people at all. And then they suggested perhaps we can do this. And they also offer that at some point, when the class is grown into some certain size and mature enough, the syllabus and so on, because this is the second time we run it, then they will also send people to help out in the lecture, so give some guest lecture and so on. So it would be nicer that we stick with the Atlassian package in the sense that, it's the same, so that otherwise, like, I can see that like 2 semesters later, guess what? We're using GitHub, and we're also using the other stuff. We're not using Trello, we're using the Bitbucket. Then, it's just harder to get them to blend in. Now, having said that, if the class think that, I don't really care, so it's the same thing, then I guess as a lecturer in charge, I think, as I said, I normally try democracy before communism. So if democracy win, then we just use GitHub. I mean, from my point of view, they all Git. And don't really care whether it's a 2 packages or 1, because we are only using 2. So whether 2 or 1 to me is the same. I don't have any administration overhead. However, if we decide to change to GitHub, then I would think that the whole class will change to GitHub. Rather than, guess what? We have some student or some group using GitHub, some using Trello and Bitbucket. They will create lots of administrative overhead for the tutors. So, yes?
The repositories are all private repositories, right? So you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. You wouldn't be able to hard code things.
No, it's private. It's not public. Huh? There will be 2. Yeah? Well, private as in private to us, you and the tutor, not like private, like, not like you, but, we are doing the course, we have to be able to market. Yes?
I did a course last sem, and what they did was on GitHub, they created an organization for
Yeah.
the course.
Yeah.
And every group in the course created a private repository inside the organization, so all the tutors can see all the repositories without actually exposing it into the code to the public. I don't know if you can do the same thing with Bitbucket.
Yeah, well, so what we're running is exactly the same in the sense like you, say for example, have 4 members, then you invite one of the members, like one extra member, which is us, as in CS9900, becomes one more member. That's it, private, only us. Sorry, is that what you're trying to say? Or?
Yeah, what I'm saying is just from your point of view, wouldn't it be easier if you could just have everyone jump into an organization, which I don't think you can do in Bitbucket?
So some you mean some using Bitbucket and some using GitHub?
So in GitHub, what you can do is you can have an organization.
Yeah.
So, like for example, their organization.
Sure.
GitHub.com/Google, you'll see Google's organization. Which
Yeah.
has Google's repository, right?
Yeah.
Google employees institution, right?
Yeah.
So if you have an organization like CS9900 or
Yeah.
CS3900,
Yeah.
everyone makes a repository within that. So our repositories would look like github.com/CS900/
Yeah.
repository name.
Yeah.
That would put it all in one place. Now, I've never done this with Bitbucket. I don't know if Bitbucket provides some organization function.
We can, but we need to have the enterprise account.
Yeah, but you don't need an enterprise.
For sure, I know that. For GitHub, you don't need that. How about that? Like, I don't want to spend too much time on this thing. Let's make a call. So we do the voting for the next president. So raise your hand if you prefer the next president is GitHub. If, otherwise, they're shy student. I should ask for both options and you raise your hand, okay? For those who don't raise your hand, that means you don't care. So if you think it's GitHub, raise your hand. Guys, you can't raise half of your hand. Are you certain or not? Okay, raise your hand, sorry. So high up, if you're half, I don't count you. $25. For those who prefer Bitbucket, when you say that you go to work, I've used Bitbucket and Trello already for my lesson, then you raise your hand. All right, I don't need to finish the counting. That's it. We are going to change to GitHub. I don't know why you need to clap, but Okay, GitHub then.
So just to clarify, we won't work with Trello in parallel with GitHub, using GitHub.
We can use Trello, right, for our internal thing. Drag and drop, we can use. It doesn't matter, right? If you're using Trello for our internal within our group, we should not matter, right? Even though if you're using GitHub.
All right, guys. Let me sort. I will sort this out myself. But for you, in your proposal, please specify using GitHub or Bitbucket. So if you're using Bitbucket and Trello, fine. If the other group using GitHub, fine. I will handle this. Okay, I will sort this out myself. Okay. All right. So. If you're open source developer, freelance developer, and student, you love GitHub. But if you're working in commercial, especially if you look at the market share of Bitbucket, Jira, and so on, you will use Bitbucket, Trello, or Jira. I think as far as I know, if you're working in Google, Facebook, all their stuff, is using Jira. So, as I said, there's probably no difference. It's still running the Git. And I know what you're saying, and Alessian right now, because they only started the Bitbucket, I think, 1.5 years ago, they're still.
Jira can also link up with GitHub.
Jira can, yes, sure, I know that. But the thing for the Bitbucket is like it's on the commercial cloud, so they have all the commercial grade backup and so on. That's why company use that one. I know what you're saying. It's a Git server, but the commercial companies, like comp9900 and so on, they wouldn't put their code in GitHub. They will put it in Bitbucket. So that's all. That's the fact. So, but you can use GitHub. The other people can use Bitbucket. I let you use both rather than one.
I have one more question. So we're going to form our teams in the children class, right?
Yes.
Okay, and is there any difference between those who are doing 3900?
No, it's team-based. You decide by the team. So I guess I pass the bucket to you guys instead of fighting in a class, I let you guys fight within a team. So you can do the vote again within your team and decide which one. But definitely you cannot have one member on GitHub, one member on Bitbucket. It's going to break. So your whole team will work on whatever system, your call. Okay? All right. So this is some sample, like, guys, we should move on. There's some sample product backlogs. So you can put some tasks here in your product backlog and by whom and estimate unit of time. Talking about a unit of time, some people may think that the unit is hours. Some people may say that the unit is days. Some people say that the unit is minutes. It doesn't matter. It's only a unit. So what it matters here is the relative number, not the absolute number here. So some company, they will say that, this task should be 4 units. The other task should be 8 units. It doesn't mean that 4 and 8 is 4 hours or 8 hours. It's relatively, you will think the 8, it will take double amount of effort or time than a 4. So it's a relative scale that matter. Okay?
Yeah, what's the vibe, like
Oh, just remember who like you put who onto this task or the stakeholder or whoever. It's just who put that task in. So from the Spring go to the Spring backlog. So the Scrum team will take the sprint goal and decide what tasks are necessary. So you have a product backlog with all the tasks or stories there. Then you need to think, after the next 2 weeks, for example, what I'm going to showcase in the sprint demo. So you have the goal of that sprint. So your goal may be, I want to demonstrate that search and replace. That's my goal, is to do search and replace. Then you need to pick all the tasks from the product backlog that's related to search and replace. Put it into your sprint backlog. So you have the goal. The goal is what you're going to show in 2 weeks. But what you're going to show in 2 weeks, it doesn't mean that only one task you need from the backlog. You may need 2 or 3 to make this demo happen. So then you pick those tasks from the product backlog, move it to the sprint, and that will form your sprint backlog. And your goal is to show what? So overall, this task, when you finish, what's your goal you achieved in this sprint? Question? So you may need to add new tasks into it in order to finish the sprint goal. So your product backlog, as I said, the list doesn't have to be the final. From time to time, you may need to find out, geez, I need to add more tasks there. And geez, I think something is wrong. You need to change that. So you can update the backlog too. So the backlog can be updated, but the backlog usually can only be updated by the team, not by like someone outside the team, like the customer said, I want to update this backlog. No. So it's all the team driven. So if the team may find that in order to do search and replace, I need to do this extra task that we never thought of before, then you add one more task there. So then your sprint backlog basically is just a subset of the product backlog items, which define the work for a sprint that you are going to show in 2 weeks. It's created only by the team members, not influenced by the customer, and so on. Each item has its own status. So to do, complete, in progress. So each item in the backlog itself has its own status. So, and you should update every day. So for example, you made 10 items in the sprint backlog. After today, one member already finished up one of them. So that one should be from in progress or to do becomes done or complete. So don't make the sprint backlog that's too long, not like few hundreds. So in your case, I guess like you have a small team, probably not more than 20 or 30. If a task requires, say, more than 21 points, then you probably should broken it down into a smaller task. So when you have the task, as I said, you need to put the unit there, how much it costs to finish the task. You can, if you want to have a concrete unit, you want to say hours or days, but usually, as I said, we only put the unit. So if it takes more than 20 points to finish a task, probably you want to break it down into a smaller task instead. So the smaller task, you can break it down to the easiest for you to finish. Every day you want to finish, well, one item. If you make the task too big, guess what? After 5 days, you won't see any items clean up in a backlog. So it's always good to break it down in a smaller scale so that tasks can be finished by more people, and every day you also see progress. Team can also add and subtract items from the list. And other than the team, the other people, even customer or product owner, are not allowed to do it. So this will be the sample sprint backlog that you move some item from the product backlog, and then every week you can state how many points completed and so on. divided the points into the different weeks and so on. There's something called the sprint burn down chart. So basically to indicate the total sprint backlog hours, for example, or points remaining per day. So you're showing how much stuff left in the backlog that you need to finish. It shows the estimated amount of time to release, and ideally should burn down to 0 at the end of the sprint. So that means done. So in reality, usually it's not a straight line. So you may have a burn down chart like that at the beginning. When you start, you have 752 points that you need to finish. Then when you go down to 0, means like no points left. You have finished all the tasks, 0 left. So that's the amount of points or hours left you need to finish your task. So the more you do, normally you reduce the number of hours or number of units left. But in reality, it's quite normal that sometimes the time is also bumped up, not just going down. Because after you do a bit, guess what? You find that, geez, we need to do more in order to finish this sprint goal. Then you add more tasks into it. You need to finish more in order to deliver. And also sometimes some obstacle or some bugs or whatever come out, and it may be that your initial estimate of the points is wrong. It also bump up too. So, but usually it's due to the change of the task or insertion of new task, it go up. So it's quite usual that, although we suppose that in general the trend should go down, but sometimes it go up. So in this chart, the x-axis with the sprint and the y-axis with the amount of hours or points remaining. So, and as we said before, sometimes it can also bump up the remaining time. So this burn down chart gives us a big picture of how the project progress. Now the Scrum team usually is probably 6 or 10 people or maybe up to a dozen. Then in a very, very large company, you may have many, many people, like hundreds of people. Then how can we scale this up? So then there's a concept of the scrum of scrums, which is called the meta scrum, that can scale up the whole scrum process. So essentially it's like you have a different team, team A, team B, team C. They all have their own sprint. Maybe every sprint is 2 weeks or 1 month and so on. They all run their own sprint. And then each team, they will send their scrum master to have the scrum of scrum. So the scrum master will, on behalf of each team will have a scrum master to join another meta level scrum and will run exactly the same thing. So then you can form a hierarchical level of the scrum of scrums to scale it up. But when you're down to each team, there's still a team of a few people, probably like 6, 10, or 12 max. So that's how we run it. Because you can't have all of them in the same room, because if all of them in the same room, when you do the stand-up, you need to stand for probably 15 hours rather than 15 minutes. So we still have to run it in this way. So these are the pros and cons of using Agile compared to the traditional software engineering process. So as we said before, we normally try a much shorter iterations. And you finish something, you iterate, you improve, or you build anything on top or change it, you iterate, or you deliver some features after the sprint mature enough. Then the next iteration, another features, or another sprint, and so on. So more in an iterative process. So it simplifies the process, and it has a clearly defined rules, which is the Scrum rules, how we run it. For example, like you have all this different meeting, all this different process. It's much simplified process than you have to go through the requirement process, get this stakeholder to sign it, approve it, then the next stage, and so on. This is much simpler process. And increased productivity is self-organizing, as we said before, how the team can organize itself. Each team member carry lots of responsibility rather than just do one thing. It improves the communication between the members of the team and also to the customers as well. So the drawback will be, because we rather have a live demo, we rather using those software to communicate within the team. So usually this process will create less written documents. It also sometimes may have a violation of responsibility because each member can do more stuff. So sometimes there's no clear defined responsibility among the members. This is all the drawbacks. But overall, the process, the flexibility and everything, the advantage usually is much more than the drawbacks. So there's still more people using Agile than the traditional process. Any question? All right, no question, then we should look at your assessment first. Then we come back to the lecture. Right. So this is how we're going to do the assessment. So each of you guys are going to write a short diary every week, just to say what you have done this week. A short one will do. So like a few sentences every week, more than sufficient. So we prefer brief but clear. And you put it into the repository, Bitbucket or GitHub. Then the proposal. So the proposal will be due on Friday next week, 16th of March. And you submit it using GIF. And the proposal worth 10%, so the group only need to submit one copy. So try not to submit more than one copy. So as in, like, if you have 4 members, ask one of them to submit. If you submit 2 or 3 copies, I'm saying each of you guys submit 1 copy or something, we just randomly pick one. Usually not a problem if they're the same version. Usually it's a problem that lastly it happened that there's one group submit 2 copies and they're different versions. That's where the problem comes from. But they're the same group. So which version should we mark? So as I said, if you submit more than one version, or more than one person submit one version, we just pick one of them randomly. And you can't argue. We just mark that one. So try to only submit one by one of your members. If you submit more than one by more than one member, make sure it's the same version. Otherwise, there will be lots of argument coming from there. So it mentioned, you should mention the group, who are your Scrum Master and who are the other members. I will modify a little bit tonight and say that, like, you also need to specify whether you're using GitHub or Bitbucket in your proposal so that we have some record there. So the proposal will contain like title page, blah, 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 and so on. and the background of the problem that you try to solve. Epic, which is the story from the user perspective that what your product or your project or your software will do at the end. And the size of each epic. You may want to use point, or you may want to use just some scale, like this is very large task, small task, medium task, or something. So at least you know that, like when you say that you want to do 4 features, 4 epics, 4 stories, and then the first one maybe is very large, second one may be large, third one may be medium, fourth one may be medium. So you have a few epics there. Then the team may end up deciding, you know, we only can do the number 2, number 3, and number 4. Number 1 is too big. We may say it's optional. Or we may say that, like, you know, if really optional, if we have time, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't promise to deliver that. That's fine. So, but at least we want to know that you actually think through. And smart out of 10, and it's 10%. It's totally 10% towards your final project marks. Now, there are some other description of the assessment of your final deliverables that I'm not going to go through here, because the thing you need to do right now is a proposal and start your work diary. Anything else we can discuss later in the subject, maybe in a lab, week 8 or 9, I will ask the tutor or myself come to the lab and go through this again. Now for the proposal, I have some snapshot from last year. Now this is one of the proposals from last year, so you know like what it's like. So they have a cover page with, I guess, with their project title, and then they have their group name, which is for privacy reason, I just cover it, and then there will be the project team, who are the Scrum Master and who are the members, the name and the student ID is all here, right? Covered. So then the background and the problem domain just explain the background. So in this case, there's a 2 paragraphs that they type up. The rest is a sample snapshot from the data set. So these 2 paragraphs is their work. This one is the example. And then they started with try to motivate the reader and say that the existing system and the drawback, which will be what can be done by the current website and what's the problem. Then their aim is to address those problems. So they create the epics, which is what features that they want their deliverable to support. So they have the first feature that can do some stuff, and they say that the size of the first feature or the first epic is medium scale. Then the second thing they want to do is a small scale. Then the third thing they want to do is very large, so it's optional. If they have time, they will do it, but they don't promise they will do it. And then another one is like, it's really large one. So then they said that they will do it. This is a large one. And finally, they have something about the user interface, like they want to build a GUI, so 1 sentence. They want to build a GUI, that's a small task, that's it. So you don't really need to go down to very detail, as I said, but you just need to think through what the team want to deliver at the end and what you don't want to deliver. So those stuff usually, why you need the optional here? Well, optional means that I don't promise to do it. Why do I need to put it here? Usually you put the optional here is better in the sense that, like, 2 weeks or 4 weeks later, let's say you are stuck with this tool, and then you can talk to the tutor. Guess what? we said that we're definitely going to do this too. But somehow for that technical reason, we underestimate, we cannot. So instead, we are going to put this optional, becomes compulsory instead. How about that? That's easier because you already put it as optional. That's easier to just swap it. So you have some backup there optional. That's a good thing too. And finally, it just, they think through some methodology, but what their methodology is like, they're going to use Bitbucket, Python, Trello, and that's it. So, and the team again, who is the team leader and who is the team members, and then, well, they are doing better than that. I mean, this is one of the above standard proposal from last semester. So it got really good marks out of that because very clear. So it also put it like some information we think is useful, although we didn't ask for that. They even put down their scheduled meeting, the spring review meeting and the retro meeting timetable. It's all very clear. And at the end, they actually follow it through. They actually follow their schedule. They actually meet according to the schedule and everything. So it was one of the dream team from last section. So you may think that like this proposal, don't think this proposal just for the submission sake to submit to me. But if you discuss with your member clearly and put it down as a black and white and you follow it through, it becomes your guidebook or your Bible. You follow it through, you have a dream team. Okay? So, some experience from last semester, just to share with you. Now, usually, if you are a very open-minded, easygoing person, you need to be very careful. You may not be able to deliver the proposal on time, or your proposal quality is likely to be not great. We've seen a team that they are nice people. They are very, very nice people. You know what they decided to do? They would say that we are all going to do the proposal together. Then when we ask them how, we all do it together. Okay, all doing it together. How? So then, of course, they didn't say that's what happened in the lab. And they're nice people. We all know each other. There's no problem. And if you ask them like 2 days before the deadline, they're still thinking all are going to do it together. I still have the same question. How? Are you all going to the same place? You're going to his home and do it together? No, right? So you all do it separately. And you all think that you're going to do together. He will think you will do it. We all think that you will do it too. And end up, probably no one started it, or everyone's doing everything. So end up when you try to integrate, it becomes a nightmare. You underestimate. On the other hand, the team that functions really well is they don't know each other. The member never met the other before. That team actually functions really well. I can't remember whether they're the second topmost team from last semester or actually the top one. They started with, they didn't know each other. In fact, if I remember correctly, that was the team that they couldn't find enough member. I need to force someone who would park it there. So because they don't know each other, they are very skeptical. So in the first meeting, they already talk about who's going to do what. Let's divide it. That end up becomes a very clear and good team because they actually down to the level that, okay, who is going to work on this section? How about everyone come up with one epic and then we integrate that section. And then you are going to do introduction. You're going to do the cover page. That's why they end up have one person just doing a cover page. He spent half a day to use Photoshop or whatever to touch up the logo, put it there. And you may laugh, but really, that divide and conquer works really well. And usually that works well when you don't know each other well. You will make things up front very clear. And usually when you know each other well, you say, yeah, it's fine. We're going to do it all together. That's where the problem is. So just bear in mind that this is what we learned from last section. You try to do things a bit better. Most of the team from last year, as I said, they're doing well or they are not doing well, as I said, not the technical issues. They are usually people issues. Communications, scheduling, usually that fail them. So you just have to be very careful on that. All right. So I guess for those like who would like to use Trello, but if you use like GitHub, you can find a similar way to do things. So we need something to effectively collaborate with each other as a team. So we can form a let's stick with this one first. And then I use more example in the other slides. So you can have a backlog which is based on a list of tasks or list of epics here. So when you create a Trello account, you can create many different boards. And some people put everything into one board. Some people separate things into different boards. Like maybe they have a brainstorming board, they have the other tasks as one board. So different teams have a different style. In one board, you can have a different list. The list of tasks or the list of things, list of items. So one of them you may call epics or backlog, that you can put all the tasks that you want to tackle. And then you can move the tasks one by one from one list to the other list. So the next list is done, or our list is in progress, and so on. So you can create any number of lists. So it's just like a board of different lists. Now, when you're using Trello, you can do stuff like which is here, that some example from the real board that I can't give you as a slide, but I can show it here because it's I think it's supposed to be confidential. It's some commercial project that I was involved in some of them. So it's a small team of about, this one's about 8 people, and they use Trello to run it. So you will have some to-do, some mobile apps, and a different level of task description, backlog, in progress, and so on. And each task, you can put different color there. We use the color to integrate the size of it. So red color means it's a big task. And green color means it's an easy task. Yellow means between. So we use color so it's easier to see. So each list, you can just put a color. There's an option for you to get a different color to label. So it's only for you to interpret. So then you can also drag and drop some images. For example, I want to design it like that. For example, look at this example from the other app. It looks like this. So you can put an image there as well. So then you can communicate and share with the whole team. And then if I click any one of them, so if I click the one with the image, then you go in, it becomes an activity. So the activity may interact with different members. So we say that, look at that screenshot. We want to implement that. Then one guy may say that, to implement that, you need to do this and that. Then the other guy say that, like, that's me, and say that, to do this, you can call this API and so on. Or using this JSON service. So this is how you interact with different members. So, and in Trello, other than the images and so on, you can also create the other widgets. So for example, you create a checkbox, a checklist. So checklist means that when you click on one of the lists, we need to do this, take. So you can have a checklist of stuff within one of the tasks. So in fact, the task can be image, can be checklist, can be many other, what they call, I think it's widget, what they call. So you can put other functionality into a task, in the activities. So again, this particular company, they should really use, they should really use Jira. But as I said, it's a startup company that they only have like 8 people, and they want a low overhead. And I guess one of the reasons, I don't know why as you said, I don't know why they didn't use, it's an Australian company. I don't know why they didn't use GitHub. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they use Trello. So I just joined as a consultant. So then it had many, many different boards, and each board actually is quite busy to task. So it would be much better off if they're using Jira. But again, I'm not going to advise them to change their system. I just work with whatever system they're using. But you can see that it's like they can have many different tasks in it, and the backlogs in progress is all out there, and they use a different color scheme for the size of it. But because it's a small startup company, it's no point when you say that, oh, let's sit down, discuss together. This task, is it 60 hours? This task may be 59 hours. This task may be 62 hours. They don't do it. They just use a color code and say that this is a large task, small task, medium task. So they will do it like that. So I guess when you're a small company, whatever quick go through all this process, you try to minimize the time you spend on planning and process. You want to get on to the work. And that's what these people are doing, using color code instead of the actual number. So it shouldn't be too hard to get used to this, the Trello system. Now, Bitbucket. So actually, one of the things now I remember, they told me before is, again, I didn't have access to the enterprise account. If I had, I may have a better answer. The Bitbucket actually integrate with the other stuff that from Atlassian products that I don't think GitHub can do it. But you can, for those GitHub fans, you can defend your favorite and shoot me down. As I said, I'll be very, very happy you can shoot me down. Although I'm not working for Atlassian. So, but I'm their fans. Look at that. What's this? Trello. So it's not GitHub. Unless you give me a GitHub t-shirt, I will decide to change to GitHub altogether. And so I think one of the things, okay, let's just forget about the kidding. One of the things I think I talked to, not Atlassian, I think I talked to one of their users that use Bitbucket. It's like they actually discussed with Atlassian people and said, we want this feature and that feature. And then I think they implemented is to put the automatic testing and automatic integration after the post-testing with the Jira. So basically, when you check in any code or you try to merge any branch in a repository, it will automatically go through the unit test and the system test. And if there's any test that is not fulfilling, it will automatically insert the ticket into Jira. I'm not sure. Can GitHub do that? Yes? Great. That's good. You should really advertise that too. So the whole point that they're trying to sell, the Bitbucket, is part of the ecosystem that can integrate with all the other products nicely from Atlassian. That's one of their selling points. All right. So anyway, as you probably heard of, answer the question with some GitHub people just now, is Bitbucket and GitHub, they're all running Git on a server. So the only difference is the Bitbucket is running on their commercial cloud premise. So they also build on top and support lots of other commercial stuff that they claim they can integrate with this and that and so on. So otherwise, it's using exactly the Git. So then, the rest of the slides is neutral. We are only talking about Git. In fact, I don't think I need to talk about Git because many of you guys probably already know Git, or otherwise it's not hard to learn Git. But this is one of the feedback from last year course evaluation that they said that we should have taught Git in the lecture. So then just to show that your lecturer actually listened to you, so I need to make some slides to talk about Git, so at least I can tick the box. Otherwise, I may get fired by the uni. So we talk about Git. What is Git? So compared to the traditional version control like SVN, CVS, and so on, Git is a distributed, what they call it, a distributed new centralized version control system. But, all right, so you can have many different Git servers. So like the red line, you have many different Git servers. And then your local repository could actually talk to more than one server at once and talk to a different server as well. So it's really like, it's much better than a traditional centralized version control system that we will talk about in detail in the next few slides. So there are many companies using Git. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Twitter, blah, 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 they're all using it. So you all started with, rather than a client-server centralized version, you have your local copy in your local machine. And then you have a working directory, which is the directory that you're editing your file, compiling. And then you can add the file that you want, so we call it staging area. So you can stage it, and later you can check in, commit to your local repository. This is all local in your machine, okay? So your machine have a repository. So with the versions, all the repository there, the repository of the source code versions. Then you have a directory that you're working, your working directory, okay? So then if normally in the old CVS or SVN, you commit from your local directory, then you check into the server, okay? But now is in this Git, in your working directory, you work, edit file, compile, oh, finally compile. So then I want to check in. You check into your local repository, not the remote one, just local, okay? We usually call the one shared with your teammates, we call the remote server, okay? So you only work on the local. Other people can't see it until you push your copy from your local to the remote. And the other people pull it from there or sync it, then you'll see it, okay? So why Git? So our goal is to share code or something else easily and keep track of any changes we make and undo them with ease, maintain multiple versions of the same project base, clearly communicate what changes have been made. This is all the goal of the version controls. Now, Git is different than SVN or CVS and so on. It's distributed, as we said before. And it's more powerful. You can do lots of stuff like have a local copy, you can do rebase, and we will talk about, mention later. So there are lots of powerful features, very flexible for you to do stuff. It's actually easier than you think. Once you understand the architecture, like the difference between, the architecture means that you have a local copy, you have a remote copy, and then when you are doing editing from the master, for the main branch, you branch out, you edit it, and then you merge it back in, you understand the concept, then it's actually quite easy to use. So first, you can use many GUI tools to do it. For example, if you're using Mac, you can download source tree, or there's many other GUI can do it. Again, I suppose that you are not going to use source tree. I think source tree is also from Atlassian. Let's use a different one. But anyway, it's just a GUI. So, or command line. You can use command line too. So you do the git init, it will just prepare the repository for you. And git status will check the status of your git and you can take a look of some of the directory, like for example, the .git directory with all the logistic and the file inside. So now, the first thing you're going to do is, let's say you're going to add one file. You got Python file, test.py. So you do git add test.py. It put this into the index. So it means like when you commit, you will commit this file to the local repository. You first add this, register this file into the repository. You haven't commit yet. You just, this one, I want to add it to the repository. So when I do commit, this file will be put into the repository. Okay? So whenever you have a new file and you want to add that to the repository, you can use git add. And then when you do commit, it will commit into the repository. So if you do command line, I mean the GUI one will be more friendly. You have all the GUI and tell you what to do. You don't need to remember all these things. But the concept is important. So then when you do commit, you do the -m, which is a message. So you can put a message. You commit, this is my first commit. Then you check in this test.py into the repository. Okay? You commit into the repository. Your local copy, local repository. So then you add a file and you don't want to save it, then you can add this file first, then you commit, and later you remove. So you can remove this one, remove the test.pyc after you commit. Okay? So you can do that too. Now, after you have set up the Git in this working directory, you want to ignore some file. You can have a .git ignore file that put down the list of files you don't want to put into the Git repository. You can do that too. Okay? You can do the git log to check out, to list you all the history, the commit history of your repository. And do git diff, which is check the difference between the test.py files against the file in the repository. Okay? So now, suppose that, let's say we already set up a repository somewhere. It could be Bitbucket, it could be GitHub, anyway, a remote repository. And then you want to clone the repository. Copy it from the remote, becomes your local. Then you do the git clone. Then you get the copy of the remote, make a copy in your local machine. Okay? And then after you make some changes, you want to commit like a normal one commit in a non-distributed version. Then you do git push. You push the changes from your local to the remote. Okay? And then if you want to make any changes, we can get them from the remote to the local by doing git pull. You pull from the remote to the local. You can also add a more active repository using this remote origin, so you can add more remote into your repository. All right, there's a few things. When to commit? So you want to commit like big changes rather than small changes. Should we commit very often or you commit less often? So now you never try to put a broken code into the master branch, otherwise it will break. Test first. Never put anything into the master branch. In fact, should say a bit more. I guess your team is small, you can run it in any way that you like. But when you go to work, you never commit anything to the master branch. So master branch means so you have, let's say you start a repository. You edit something, you have the next version. You edit something, you have the next version. So you form like a history like version by version. So we call this one branch. But then, at one point, you decide that you want to branch out. You form another same version, but you split. Then you branch out to have another branch. So the original one you started with, we call it a master branch. You try not to put any broken code there. In fact, you try not to directly edit that branch. So normally what you do, you create a separate branch. So rather than this is called master, you may call it, I don't know what you call it, like epic one. I mean, you usually think of a better name, epic one. So it's like one branch. Then you do a development, you check in more version, push more version in, push more version in, but it's a separate branch than a master. So if anything screws up, you just get rid of this branch, nothing affects this one. So then at one point, you try to merge this branch back to the master. Normally at work, you need to do code review and testing. Not by you, by your other team members. So they need to review your code and test it. All right, it's all right. We think your code can be merged with the master. Then you can push it back into, merge it back into the master. Otherwise, if everyone can touch the master, your code will be broken very soon. Okay? So you always branch out, create a separate branch, work on it, and then have many versions. When it's done, merge it back in. And always use a clear, concise commit message. So when I check, for example, when I check the commit history of some projects from last year, there are a few students, they commit very often. They do things very fast, commit very often. But you know what? They are a very efficient person. They don't like to type messages. So they just commit many times. But I don't know what is going on unless you look at the code. But I guess when you are that efficient, every commit is probably only 2 lines change. Then maybe it's okay, but still need to look at the code. So the whole point is that you need to have a very short message. Even you change whatever 2 lines for what purpose, you should still put it there. So people can actually read the commit history, the messages, knows what's going on. So, and then here it says that when you make giant changes, consider branches as in branch out. But as I said, in industry, normally, if you're doing anything, you should always branch out. And then when your code, as I said, endorsed and reviewed and tested by your peers in a team, then you can merge back in. So when you and your friends both try to make changes, and then both try to push it back to the repository, what happened? Of course, when you both make changes, sometimes there will be some conflicts. You both change the same file. If there are conflicts there, and you will need to manually resolve the conflicts, like many source code control system, before you can commit, and the system will prompt you to do so. If there's no conflict between the 2 changes, then they will just merge it automatically for you. Okay? Now, sometimes you want to get back the original version of the file from your local repository. So you make some changes here. You don't like it. I want to get back the original, the last copy from it, from the local repository. So you can do the git checkout -- the file name. -- here means the local repository head, which is pointing to the most current copy, the commit copy of your file. Now, something is convenient. You don't have to use it. It's called the stash. So git stash is a staging area. Suppose that you're modifying some file in a directory. When I commit, I will commit all the files I modified into the local repository. But now I think, some files may be not quite ready. I don't want to push them in. But I don't want to lose those changes either. Then you can use this stash. When you do git stash, you put your file into some temporal area. Then when you do commit, those files will not be committed to the repository. Okay? You make some changes. You don't want to lose those changes. but you don't want to check, you don't want to commit it into the repository. Then you can do the stash. It will temporarily move those files to an area. It will not remove it, it will be there. Then when you do commit, it will not commit those files into the repository. You just temporarily save it somewhere, hide it somewhere. Okay? To get them back, you just do the stash port. It will move the file back to your working directory. It's come back. Okay? All right. This diagram summarizes it well. So the first three boxes here are your local machine. This is a remote server, a remote repository. So you have your working directory or workspace. You add some file, blah, blah, blah. You add the file into the index. When you do commit, this file will be commit into the local repository on your local in your machine. Then when you do the push command, it will push from your local to the remote repository. So even you commit, you don't push into your local machine, you lost your machine, it's all gone. Okay? So unless you do push, then you push to the remote server. Then everyone else can see the code in your team. Everyone else in the team can see your code. Okay? So then from the remote repository, if you do the pull, it will pull all the copies. So you pull the copies into your local repository and into your working space. So you will have the copy from the remote to your local. You can also do fetch. Fetch will fetch all the changes, not the actual repository, just the changes to saying that, like, who has modified what, the messages and so on to your local repository. So you know what's going on. You know some file has been updated. Okay? And then you can check out something from your local repository and so on. Branches. It's a little bit more advanced, but as I said, you need that. So what is a branch? Exactly what it sounds, what it is. A branch is a branch. So as I said before, when you start with the repository, you have the master branch. Then you can create a branch out. It will be a separate branch. So for example here, if you do a git checkout, so you check out the code, and you create a new branch called testing. Then you make a new branch, the name is called testing. The original one is called master. So now you create another copy next to it, not on top of it, next to it. It's called testing. So then when you make some changes and commit, so if you check out master, again, you switch back from your testing branch back to the master branch. Okay? And then you can do merge testing. Then what you just branch out testing will be merged back to the master branch. So you can check out and call testing. You don't change it back to master. When you keep commit and push, it will be built up on this testing branch, not the master branch. It's in parallel. Until you check out the master and merge the testing back to the master. You merge this branch back to the original master branch. Okay? Now sometimes if you're forced to revert all the changes that you have done, you can do the checkout -f. You will force to revert all the changes you have done and check out a new copy of the code. So if you already committed it, you can revert the commit by doing git revert head. It will revert the last commit head. So that's how you can reverting the stuff back. Okay? You can also use a particular commit ID, which is based on the SHA hashtag. You will see it either using GUI, or you can see from the log history, you can see each commit attached with a shard ID. You can use that to specify which one you want to do the revert. This one is a bit even more complicated, called rebase. So say you have a master branch. You start now, week 2, you have a master branch. And week 3, you branch out. You have another branch called Epic 1. See another branch. You keep working on it. And then, in week 10, you merge the Epic 1 back to the master. Your Epic 1 left the master from week 2. Merge it back in week 10. But during that time, the master may have some changes already. And then when you merge it back, your whole Epic 1 branch, you don't know what's going on in the master. It's parallel. There are lots of commit in the master. There are lots of commit in your own Epic 1. So rebase is like you want to change the time such that your branch is not, did not leave the master from week 2. You want to change it such that it moves more forward to week 10 instead. So you can shift that. You can change the history. This is called rebase. You move the base of your branch. Okay? Why you want to do that? Well, you want to do that because some changes you have made in your Epic 1 is based on what is from the master. But what you base on may be different after you branch out. So say, for example, your Epic 1 may base on one of the function call from master. And then when you try to merge back, what you base on is no longer there. It's gone, or it's totally different. Then you may want to change your thing for the new stuff. But since you started from week 2, so all your commit there will be not consistent because things only happen after you branch out. So you really want to move the time forward such that it looks like you branch out after the function you base on has already changed. Then you move the time, you rebase the time. Then you use the command rebase. So it looks like, although you actually branch out from week 2, but it looks like as if you branch out actually from week 10 rather than week 2. Okay? If you are not okay, just understand the concept. Because when you are dealing with it, if you actually try to do this project and doing branching, I think you should encounter this problem. As well as if you base on something from the master, what you base on, you said that you do this and so on, you change to the master, but it's not, I based on this thing. Then you may need to do rebase, otherwise your commit may have some issue. Okay. So that's how we change the history. For example, you can pick some of the commit from your branch. Okay? Pick some of the commit from your branch. You can even to rebase, and you can even change the commit message. So, for example, let me give you an example. Okay? Say your, it's not the best example, but I think it works. So say in your master, someone already implemented a function called search. The search will take one argument, which is a text, or two arguments, which is a text you want to search, and a file ID. So it will go to that file ID, and the text you want to search and search. It will return you the offset of that file to find the first match. Okay, you base on that. Now you're going to build something on top. So you branch out, you build something on top. Then after you want to merge, guess what? Whoever implement that function said, oh, sorry, I gave you the wrong function. And the function is not doing this. In fact, you need to call 3 other functions instead. Then all the implementation you have based on that is no longer valid. In fact, one of your commit may say that, okay, I have implemented the prototype based on 1 file ID and 1 input text. Even the message is wrong. Because when you try to merge back in, he changed the function that you base on. In that case, you want to change all your whole branch. So by doing that, first, I want to rebase this. I change the code such that it works on the new version. I change the commit, even the message for it. Like, it's not saying that I have made the prototype to work on one keyword parameter and 1 file ID. I change to it need to use 3 functions instead. So I change even the message. So you can change anything in your branch to adapt to the new change in the master. So as if you only left the master from week 10, not from week 2. Because the changes is after week 2. Okay? Okay? All right. So some hosting repository, there are plenty of them. And you can have Bitbucket, GitHub, and then you have all this, your local repository, and so on. Actually, yeah, so there are some references, but actually is, if you go to the Git website, I think the git-svm.com, I think, but you Google it, the Git website, and they have a link to the ProGit, which is a free online book. It will give you a good introduction, and as you go quite deep into it, it's a book. It's free, online. So you click a link, you can go into it. Okay? And that's it for Git. Question? I'm sorry, I think I forgot your toilet break. You should remind me. I'm so sorry. I mean, it's my fault because I didn't feel like I needed, so I forgot. But, you know, my apology. Yes? We will expect, like for example, let's say, for example, for project 3, which is just that finance project. So we say that, for example, we expect that you should be able to at least like be able to create some portfolio, put some stock into the portfolio, which is the bare features, so-called portfolio management. So that with the bare minimum. So whoever finished the bare minimum, finish it nicely, then will be credit. That's what it is. And then from there, so there's a guideline in that assessment guideline. So if you do more, like all the suggestions, like some extra stuff, you do more, then from the credit ongoing. And then for those, you finish all the bare minimum, but there are lots of obvious like bugs and glitches and like, you know, it only works for like say 10 stocks but not more. But everything is well done, but it's just not very usable. You can, as a CAN demo part, okay, then you are maybe between passing, something like that on that level. Now that is for the group marks, level. Then the individual, as I said before, we look at the history, look at your contribution, you find that why you only at the pass level when everyone else is actually at least distinction. We find that maybe the group is one person doing all the work, or most of the work, the other 2 or 3 not doing work. Then that pass level, because there's another 20%, so the guy who do most of the work will probably have most of the 20%. That will become like around 70 instead of 50. Then the people not doing any work, it's not like that 20% for the person is from nowhere. They will get penalized. So they will lose some marks from the 50. So may end up, the project is supposed to be passed, but the guy who do most of the work get it passed, will perform better than pass. And the people not doing much and make the whole team pass will probably fail the course. So the way we do that is like, it's easy. Is we have 20% reserved for the individual performance, whatever you call it, or assessment. So all the other marks add together. Even your full marks is only 80%. And then that 20% is a personal assessment. So it means that if you don't get any personal assessment marks, the maximum marks you get is 80.
What's your interpretation of the difficulty of the blockchain versus the other 2 projects? If project 3 is getting it done as credit, is project 2 getting it done also credit? Or is it a higher mark because it's harder?
No, for the project 1, for example, if you get it done, probably it's credit, yes, same. Yes, will be around credit. But if you show that, we have some expectation because we know it. Like for example, if you just do it normally, I won't expect your accuracy is more than like 50% or 60%, around that, 50-something%, that's the expectation. But if you show it to me, oh no, we try it, actually, or you demonstrate it, it's actually no, 80% or 90%, well, you probably get 100. Because the 3 projects, they are different. The first project is more to do, is talk about some similar feature. Imagine, I'm the customer. I want a first project. I care about similar cases. I don't really care your fancy interface because what I want is similar cases. Now, if you give it to me, I know that the existing stands about half, like 50 to 60% accuracy, around that. That can be easily done by any external library. So if you give me that, yeah, great. But as I said, after that, you don't have to work on accuracy. You can work on something else. No, like, I'm bad in algorithm. I can know where to make it accurate. I give you the best interface you've never seen before. And that's what you're going to sell in your proposal. You probably push from that angle instead. But if anything is standard, it's around 65. Same as the blockchain one. You just get the depth library and implement something, a shopping cart. It's actually not hard. The concept sounds new, but if you get the library and read the documentation on how to use it, it's not that hard though. So if you do the standard way, it's around that. But we know, because for those 3 projects put up, we know what is around the normal if you just do the normal. For example, the finance one. Frankly speaking, if you use just those standard ones, it's almost like it's database programming. You can say that. You can use a database to do most of the job. And also say it there, whether you want to do it as a fancy GUI or even text mode, I still accept that as a bare minimum. But then you say, oh no, I give you the interface. You know what? When people use it, like we use it, we mark it, we see your demo, you're even fancier than Yahoo. Then that will be definitely more than that. So that's the guideline here. Like we have a guideline that there's a credit, and you do, wow, that's a distinction level. But you do it, geez, even the tutor cannot do it. That definitely is full marks or high distinction level. That's for the group. And then we look at who make this happen. Based on your input and our input, then we figure out we should, hopefully it's fair enough. We want to credit the individual contribution. We also want to be like, not penalized, but just want to fair to those who contribute less in a team. Any other questions? Now, if no questions, I will see you in the lab. No, you won't see me next week. In fact, you won't see me ever until week 12 in this room. And I will see you in the lab week 4, because hopefully we can give you some feedback of the proposal. And then I will also see you again in week 10 in your labs. Hopefully it's the last minute to give you some comfort in case you are in a panic mode, you don't know what to deliver for your final submission. So, but if you have any problem that you cannot resolve with your tutor, you are more than welcome to come to talk to me. Okay? Huh? Sorry? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Okay. You won't see my reply until this evening. I have a meeting until 5:30 after this lecture. So I won't be able to check email until at least 5:30. Probably tonight. Okay? All right.
I would like to swap my laptop. I already sent the email to the student office.
Oh, they have to handle it. They have to handle it. Because I said the tutor cannot have access on the student enrolled in that lab. So you have to formally change it, otherwise they can't enter your marks in. So it has to be done by the student office.
It's quite slow. I sent the email last week, Wednesday.
You need to ask them, because there's some permission that the tutor cannot access other lab students and so on. So you have to.
Is it possible to use the email?
It's not going to help, but it's okay. As long as there's space there, you can change it and so on. I think it's okay. Yeah, that should be fine. That should be fine. Just wait and you assume it works. If there's vacancy there, it should work. You have to go through the student office. Yeah. Send it to them, is it?
Yeah, we need to wait, but this week we need to read the rules, so we have to be worried about it.
Same case with this. Which do you plan to switch from?
My friends want to swap yeah. But I want to change my laptop.
Well,
Otherwise,
it has to be done by the student office. So I think I don't assume that you start the proposal until like end of this week. You have 1 week to develop proposal. So I guess you need to go to the student office in person and hassle that on Friday the latest and say you need to change that. When you change it, it's not important. You just need to make sure that you can be changed. That's important. I mean, when you change is not important, because as well as when you submit the proposal at that time, when it's to the tutor, enter the marks in the system, and see your name there. We are talking about 1.5 weeks or 10 days or 2 weeks from now. I think definitely will be changed. I just want to make sure before that, when they say you can change, it actually can be changed. That's important. The worst case is like when they say you can change, and for some reason it failed to change. That's the problem.
of course, it's the system problem. He changed it to the Sunday night, so it cannot swap.
Oh, because that was the last day to swap online.
But Sunday is before the deadline, so they can do this. But I think maybe it's a system error.
System error, but today is Tuesday.
Yeah, he did it at Sunday. So he said it doesn't have a swap button.
You wait until Thursday night. It was still not working. Then you email me on Thursday night. Then at least it's a Friday. Then on Friday morning, I try to email them or call them and see what's happening.